Good morning, folks. Thank you for taking the time to join us on this webinar. I'm very aware that time is money, so I really appreciate you taking the time to join us. I'm hoping to cover a number of things this morning, but just going back a while, I recall reading a publication done by Deloitte some time back, and it was called Big Bang Short Fuse. What that really meant was how long is it going to take for certain industries to be completely and totally disrupted? So the Big Bang was how big was the disruption going to be, and the short fuse was how long was it going to take to get there. And if we look at where the professional services are, it's in fact right in that quadrant where it's Big Bang and very short fuse, which means that as in the professional services industry, we're already there. So we're being totally disrupted. So you're probably wondering what this morning's really about. So we know that professional services really struggle and are uncomfortable with marketing and promoting their businesses. Also, we know that most professional services want to add more advisory services, but really don't know how or even have the IP to do that. And the third part is just to collaborate with other key influencers on a more regular basis, rather than having just ad hoc informal associations with other professional services. It's more about collaborating on a more formal basis with key influencers. So we're going to cover that this morning, and we're going to show you how you can make a significant difference to your clients. My name is Terry Q, and I'm CEO of 10X, and I've been very privileged to work in a number of different countries right across the globe, working with small and very large businesses in the biotech, medical devices, and health and fitness industries. More recently, I worked for a global fitness company with 540 wholly owned stores in 27 different countries with revenues of around $1.2 billion. And I worked in a number of different capacities, but again, more recently, I was on the global exec, so had some great opportunity to work in the sales and marketing space of a global business. And like I said, I've had the opportunity of working with very small businesses too. So last year, about 18 months ago, actually, I joined the 10X team and very focused on building collaborative partnerships, particularly with small to medium enterprises, SMEs, and also with professional services. So what we did was we surveyed well over 100 accounting firms, and it was really interesting what popped out of that, because, and in fact, these were telephone and face-to-face surveys. It wasn't an etiology. It was more literally speaking with accounting firms, and it was accounting firms, sole practitioners, and up to 3 and 4 partner firms as well. And what we established very quickly was that there's a deep hunger for better quality leads, not just more leads, but better quality leads. Clearly, the volume of leads too. Most of the professional services, the accounting practices, wanted a point of difference, because we know that the compliance space has been totally disrupted. So how does the practitioner really differentiate from anyone else in the market? The third component was, and again, probably not much of a secret, but added value type work for their clients. So what can we do to add more value to the clients? Where do we go to find that IP? How do we approach our clients, and how do we do that? And the informal referral relationships were not working as effectively as they would have liked them to work. And clearly, like I said earlier, a lack of marketing skills and actually in most cases sales. So great at their profession, but not so good at generating leads, promotions, and even sales. And again, this probably ties in with the previous point of most partners and practitioners just simply didn't want to get out there. It was very uncomfortable for them to do that. And being part of a tribe was really, really important to them. So more specifically about like-minded professionals, not necessarily people in the in the accounting world, but or professional services world, but just simply like-minded professionals who they could speak with and who can add value. So once we accumulated that information, we thought, okay, so what do we do now? What do we believe is the solution for this? And this is the methodology that we've come up with that's working really well for us at the moment. So the two squares, the two icons on the left-hand side, if you follow my cursor, you'll see growing the accounting firm. That was clearly what we established out of all those points that we talked about on the previous slide. It all amounted to one thing, and one thing only. How do I grow my accounting firm? How do I grow my practice? Because I'm frustrated. I know what I want, but I don't know how to get there. I know how to grow. I know what the outcome is, but I'm just not sure how or where to go and do that. So that was the first point. The second point is we realized that creating alliances and building this tribe was really, really important for the practitioners. So what we did was, again, following my cursor, is we said, okay, so let's form this tribe of like-minded professional services with the accounting firm, the practitioner in the middle of this hub. So we call this the hub. And in this hub is the 10X coach together with the accounting firm. So we've got our 10X coach, and I'll elaborate a bit more on the 10X coach in a minute. But these are just examples of the professional services that we have currently in our hubs at the moment. So we've got clearly some of them are obvious. These are mortgage broker, financial planning firms, legal firms, general insurance, HR, real estate, property, stockbroking, etc., etc. So these are classically the professional services that we build around the accounting practice. So again, just to have a quick look at what this hub is all about. So it's about collaboration synergy of an advisory board. So it's an environment where there's total collaboration between the members of the advisory board. Clearly, priorities to attract more leads and referrals to grow not only the accounting firm's practice, the accounting firm's business, but also those members of the hub. Number 3 is to access ready-made advisory IP. So again, we have extraordinary IP around $4 million worth of IP that we have consolidated over the years, and I'll explain a bit more and elaborate on that in a minute. So clearly, with the growth of the practice and the other members of the hub, is to increase the revenue, not only through referrals and new leads, but obviously other revenue streams, which ties in with point number 3 above. And then have other professionals actively sell your services for you. So that's part of the marketing plan, is that within this hub, within the hub are marketing professionals, so to speak, informally for the accounting practice. And then, and again, that's the grow your firm alongside peers who hold you accountable. And I'd like, again, to elaborate on that in a minute. So why the hub? So why the hub for the accountants? Clearly, I repeat myself yet again, is the intense focus on growing your practice. There's no question about that. That's the absolute focus of the hub. The advisory board act with the other members of the hub. Now, here's what's important about this advisory board is that it's not a vertical advisory board. In other words, it's not just made up of accounting practices or even accounting firms and mortgage brokers, which seems like the obvious fit. We build these hubs with a very diverse group of businesses. And the reason for that is simply that different businesses outside of the professional services see business and view business challenges and tackle business challenges from a very different perspective. So we believe that a diverse advisory board adds a whole lot more value than just having professional services around the table. So the culture of support is really built on trust. And it's really fascinating how very quickly that trust actually builds. Now, I've worked with many of these advisory boards over the years, and particularly in the last 2 years. And it's really fascinating how that trust builds very quickly. And of course, with trust comes the support for each other on the advisory board, the powerful insights and strategies is linked clearly to learning strategies. And again, we'll talk about what those learning strategies look like in a minute, because they translate into real opportunity for each of the practitioners and each of the members of the hubs. So the real opportunities are identified, as well as the issues, but more importantly, the real opportunities. And out of the insights and learnings from the hub, each person on the hub sets their own action plans that are very relevant and totally focused on their businesses. So these are action plans that they take away and implement into their business. It's very focused implementation. This is an execution plan. It's how do I deliver it? When do I deliver it? Who's involved and by when? So the project tracking takes place in the hub, and the implementation is then becomes an accountability issue as well. So if I wrap up 6, 7, and 8, setting the action plans, putting it in place, and then having the hub, members of the hub hold each other accountable. And of course, it's accountability and support in terms of what you set out to do, and did you in fact implement it or didn't you? And if not, how can we support you in making that happen? So clearly, again, the hub is a tribe of like-minded people. And again, that trust builds quite quickly and the tribe actually develops. And it's not unusual to have friendships building out of that hub too. We pride ourselves on having experienced coaches. We are very clear on the profile of the coach that adds value to these hubs, and that he is very experienced in business practices. And in fact, in most cases, have either run their own businesses or have been at very senior executive level, or a combination of both. So again, we're very, very focused on bringing on the right coaches. And clearly having fun is absolutely a part of the hub. It's not just all about very intense focus, but we like to have a bit of fun around the table too. So what does the hub get? So if I may just go back to the previous slide, is that's really what the hub, the overview of what the hub is. So what does the hub get? So I mentioned earlier that there's this vast repository of IP. This vast repository of IP that we use not only within 10X, but outside of 10X too, and that is available to every single member of the hub. The second part is every 60 days, the hub gets together, and within that 60-day plan is, 60-day period is the execution of the plans that each member of the hub has put together. So every 60 days, we get together as a group, and it's a full day that we meet. And then in between those 60 days, we have the one-on-one coaching between the coach and the business owner, every single member. So we meet a minimum of 12 times in a year. So again, I'll elaborate on what that looks like in a minute. So how do we specifically generate leads for the members of the hub? So this is where it gets very, very cool. It really looks, it works really, really well. So that icon represents the members of the hub, clearly. So we invite the clients of each of the members of the hub together with our client base, and we have the largest privately owned client base in the country. So we have 240 SMEs on our database. So together with our SMEs, as well as those of the members of the hub, we invite them to an event that we call the Edge event. And at that event, we deliver 3 hours of pure content on how to grow their business. And we've done many, many events, Edge events, and we've had and almost every time we get extraordinary feedback on the value that they get. It's not a sales fest. All we do is deliver 3 hours of very good content for your clients, and obviously our clients, our database. So After that, we have a one-on-one discovery consultation. So we ask for an opt-in at the Edge event, and those who've opted in, we have a one-on-one meeting with them. So the coach meets one-on-one with each person who's opted in. And at that one-on-one session, we do two things. The objective, the outcomes we are looking for is one of two things, or both. The first is we uncover the needs of that particular client's business. And in the meantime, they've completed a diagnostic tool that we call a business health check. And it gives us some indication on how their business is performing and what they're looking to do with their business. And we identify some quick wins for them in that one-on-one. And we also identify some shortcomings. So for example, do they have a buy-sell agreement? Do they have key man insurance, et cetera, et cetera? And if they don't, we refer them straight back to the members of the hub. And at that point, that becomes clearly a referral for the members of the hub. Secondly, is we give them the opportunity to join the 10X coaching club, the 10X. It's not the hub that we talked about that's on the left-hand side of the screen. That's the hub for the professional services and the accounting practice. So this is about forming a coaching club for your SME so that we can add value to their businesses in a similar format to what we do with the hub. So once we've spent some time building what it is and understanding what it is they want, we then the offer that they have, what we offer them is very similar to what the hub gets, and that is partial access to the IP, because there's some of the IP that is not of much relevance to them, that is of a lot of relevance to the accounting practice and the other businesses around the accounting practice. So they do have access, limited access to the IP. They also meet on a 60-day cycle. And again, they also have a one-on-one coaching session with the coach. Now, this is probably going to be the same coach in this instance as the coach who facilitates and works with the hub. So because these are clients of the hub, the same coach would work with your clients as they do with you. So again, during this process of the coaching club, the bi-monthly one-on-one coaching with each of those clients, we know and we've experienced that there are always needs, continuing needs of each of those clients in this group, in this coaching club group. Again, the default referral is straight back to the hub, and assuming yet again that that particular practice is, or that particular industry is represented on the hub. So for example, if it is a buy-sell agreement, do we have a legal practice on that hub? And almost always the answer is yes. Same thing with property and mortgage brokering, etc. So what we've done with this IP of ours is we've been very smart in how we've mapped it to a diploma in business. Now, it's not that important. The diploma in business is not that important, but what it does is, because we've mapped the IP to the diploma, which is an accredited diploma of business, accredited by the federal government, so it's on scope. So because it's on scope, we can now offer the clients, your clients, vet fee help. Of course, this same opportunity exists with any members of the hub who are wanting to do some form of business diploma, do a diploma in business and wanting to finance it through the government. So vet fee help is exactly the same as what used to be called HECS. So it's financing by the government. So what this does is it does two things for us. One, it tells us that the IP is extraordinary because the government has accepted it as good enough for a diploma in business. Number two is that because it's accredited, we can offer vet fee help to help finance the SME's coaching for that year. So let's have a look at what the 10X Coaching Club offers. So this is more from the learning perspective of the coaching club. So these learnings, remembering these learnings are what translate directly into the action plans for your practice, for the members of the hub, and of course for your clients. So keeping in mind there's the hub, and your clients from the hub have a similar offering. So what we cover in the coaching club is we talk very specifically about how to improve the profit. And this is just one module, which we call the advantage module. We talk about mindsets and habits and how we shift those in order to make a difference to the people in our business, and of course to the outcome, the net outcome of the business. Clearly, this is an issue for most businesses, is just managing time and how do I prioritize. Leadership is one of the most popular, and that's not just leadership for large firms, but for small firms too, and small businesses. Even if there's 1 or 2 extra people working in the business, it just has a significant impact on how that business owner works with his or her team. Clearly, because sales is not what practitioners and other, particularly practitioners, but other businesses are not that good in professional services business. So we focus on sales and how to improve sales and sales conversions. So we also talk about customer service. This is another key ingredient of the learnings that we do in the coaching club, which again translate into, and it's really interesting how many businesses think they're delivering great customer service or client service, and yet in fact it's usually a lot better than it can be a lot better than what they think. So we look at systems and processes. We believe that if you have to do something twice, there should be a system for it. So we work with you to build productivity and efficiencies through systems, and these can not necessarily be IT platforms, just simple systems that you put into place in your office environment. Clearly, we've talked about marketing and generating more leads, which links with number 4 in selling. So it's about generating the leads and then converting the leads. And branding is the positioning of you personally as the business owner, as well as your firm. So we focus on helping you build that branding positioning for your business. Project is just pure project management, how to innovate, how do we improve, and we focus a lot on the innovation space with SMEs. So the project management is about helping those SMEs manage their projects, I beg your pardon, as well as building the systems and how to prioritize. So they all tie in very closely, and keeping in mind that these 9 topics are really about learning, firstly, and secondly, how do I translate that into an action plan, and how do I implement it? So what does that coaching club day look like? Remember, it's the full day every 60 days is the coaching club group gets together, and that's both for the hub and for the hub's clients. Clearly, they are 2 separate coaching clubs because we don't wish to mix your clients with your hub, because that doesn't make sense. So if we have a look at this coaching club day, it's very, very structured, very, very productive, and outcomes focused. So if we look at the 9:30 to 10:30 slot where it says performance review of previous 60 days. So the action plans and the project tracker that you drafted 60 days prior is where you feed back to the group on your accomplishments and the progress of each one of those tasks you set out to do in your action plan. This is very powerful because this is where the group not only holds you accountable, but also supports you in finding solutions and challenges that you've experienced along those within those tasks in your action plans. So what we found too is that there's just that underlying feeling of I don't want to arrive at the group meeting at the coaching club, the advisory board, without having at least attempted my action plan. It's not always possible to complete it, but at least I've attempted it. The next section is the learning components, which I referred to on the previous slides. And again, remembering that these learning insights are what translates directly into the action plans, which is what you develop for the next 60 days and which becomes your priority focus. So if you have a look at the 3:30 to 4:30 slot, this is probably, certainly in my opinion and what I've experienced over the years, the hot seat is very, very powerful. And the hot seat is simply where one of the members of the hub identifies an issue that they're really struggling with, or a challenge that they're really struggling with in their business, and just can't find a solution for it. And often what happens with this is the issue that they've described is very often not in fact the real issue. So in the hot seat, the group, through a process of questioning and understanding what the issue is, gets down to really the core of the onion, so to speak. So peel back the onion and get to the real core issue. So I'll give you an example. In one of the last coaching clubs that I facilitated, there was a business in the group that does asset management, and they do around $12 million a year in revenue. And they've been plateauing for some months now, in fact, over a year, and starting to decline, and they just can't understand why. So it's, how do we grow our business because we're in a stage of decline? So pretty common issue for businesses, for many businesses. So we said, okay, let's have a look at this issue. And through a process of questioning, what we discovered was that there were 3 partners in this business, and none of the 3 partners, and they were equal shareholders, none of the 3 shareholders was in fact the managing director or the CEO. So what they really were struggling with was decision making. So they'd get to a stalemate and really not have the answer to the question or the issue, because the 3 partners would go away and very often not on the same page. So decisions wouldn't be made, and they would just be ignored or just buried. So we very quickly identified that, and then helped them find solutions on whether they should bring an external MD or CEO or managing partner, or whether they in fact should choose someone within those 3, one of the 3 partners. So it'll be interesting to see when they come back for the next session what they've done. So watch this space. That'll be really interesting. And then the last part of the coaching club is to spend at least 45 minutes to an hour drafting the action plans and the project tracker for the next 60 days, which is also what the coach touches on the one-on-one sessions. So that's what the full coaching club day looks like. And you're probably wondering, well, how effective is this stuff? How effective is this coaching club? How effective? 10X has worked with hundreds of SMEs with coaching clubs. And I just dropped in a few of the testimonials that we've had. Of course, we've got many of these, and we've got some on video too. So if we just pick one of them, let's just pick the bottom one. 10X gave us the impetus to implement with velocity. I'd rather do what it takes to complete these projects than turn up to the group empty-handed. It's a classic, exactly what I said earlier, was just absolutely focused in driving the implementation of the action plans. So if we look at a few more, the middle one, Colin, the team at 10X have been instrumental in helping me to turn things around in taking the business from virtually zero cash flow to what it was before and beyond. But this time within a much more robust model. My 10X coach has kept me focused, accountable, and performing out of my skin. Business isn't just an income now, it's a major opportunity and a growing asset. So Colin Kennedy, Director of Iron Road Communications. So great feedback from our coaching club SMEs. So let's go back and revisit the intellectual property that I referred to a little earlier in our discussion. And this really just summarizes it beautifully. So the ones that I'd like to focus on are Business School, Knowledge Builder, if you follow my cursor, and then eCampus. So I'm going to focus for the most part on eCampus. So the accounting firm and the members of the hub, full suite of IP. So this includes not just the learnings, but it also includes additional advisory IP for the hub, members of the hub to use with their clients. It also gives an opportunity. In fact, if we really summarize this page, there are 660 strategies between all of these icons. There's 660 strategies on how to grow your business, including products and services such as drafting a business plan, a marketing plan, and fairly extensive marketing and business plans too, ones that the SMEs can take to the banks if that's what's required. So some extraordinary IP that's all wrapped up in this particular suite. So if we have a look at, sorry, I'm just going to go back up the page. If we have a look at the eCampus component, and we just focus on that for a second. So I've clicked on the eCampus, and these are the icons that pop up on eCampus. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick on 10x Insights. So if we click on the 10x Insights, it takes us to all the products and services that exist, I beg your pardon, topics that exist within 10x Insights. So just the Insights, which is a minuscule part of the IP, just on the Insights component, you can see we have extraordinary amount of IP just on the Insights component alone. So if we pick on any one of these, let's just take, I think it's Time Insight that I've focused on. So let's have a look at that. So we're looking at, yes, 10x Time Insight up there where my icon is. So so let's go back again. So that's all the insights that we talked about, or most of them anyway. So we go to the Team Insight, I beg your pardon, Time Insight, and you'll see within Time there's an extraordinary amount of IP that goes with just the time component alone. And this is what we cover with each of the members of the hub and the coaching club. So I'm going to show you what that looks like, and let's have a look at an example of an insight. And this time I've just chosen the leadership module. It really could have been any of them. And I've identified, so we click on the leadership module, and this is what pops up. So we click on video theater, and what pops up is a video. So there's a video, there's hundreds of hours of video in total, but on the leadership module, we click on one of the leadership modules and up pops a video. And we have Michael Sheargold, a professional coach, who presents that particular module, which is leadership. And with that comes a very extensive workbook. And this is the workbook together with that's been mapped to the Diploma of Business for members of the hub and for the clients. So we also have within this particular area of the insights, we have an opportunity for both the SME and the coach to measure their knowledge of what's just being taught and explained. So not only is there a workbook to write, but there's also a recall mechanism should they choose to do that. So again, folks, just remember this is absolute minuscule part of the IP. I just wanted to zone in and just show you what some of it looks like. And again, I talked about the, forgive me, I repeat myself, but I talked about the Diploma in Business and Vet Fee Help. So in summary, if we have a look at this, clearly we have, sorry, I beg your pardon, we look at the IP, we've just talked about the IP, so we have this extraordinary IP available to everyone in the hub and some of the IP to your clients. So let's just stay with you in the hub, so you get full access to all of this IP. Together with that, it's wrapped up in how we work with you. So it's in a group format and it's in one-on-one format. So we link what's very powerful on this side. We link together with face-to-face. It can be Zoom or Skype on the one-on-ones, but we really do prefer face-to-face, and most of the clients do too. However, so we wrap up the face-to-face with the IP with a clear expectation that there will be significant performance improvement. And where we're very different to any other business in this space is that we've taken our bespoke IP and created a diploma in business with the opportunity of government financing to go with that. So it allows us to work with you and all your clients and build your business, build your practice over the course of a year, and at the same time with financing from the government. And I mentioned this a little earlier, but we're absolutely focused on having very experienced coaches. So again, I'll give you a quick example on that. One of our coaches is the ex-marketing director for PepsiCo. And prior to that, he was the marketing director for CUB. One of our coaches in Sydney started the equivalent of the Harvey Norman in South Africa. He and a partner started with one store, grew through acquisition, but also through greenfields, but grew the business to well over 600 stores, and of course listed the company on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. So he's one, and Colin's one of our coaches here in Sydney. So I just use those two guys to illustrate sort of the level of business accomplishment our coaches have. And we really want to make sure that these guys are adding value to you and your clients. So we've had a lot of requests from accounting practices and practitioners about our Spark magazine, and we included in the hub and the coaching club is for the practitioners, we're offered the Spark magazine, and we can white label that to suit your practice. So we brand it with your practice's logo and name, and this is valued up to around $1,000 per month. So an extraordinary value add for the accounting practitioners who are on the hub. So I think it's just important that in the past, and this is how we've remodeled the entire hub and coaching club methodology. So in the past, around 66 accounting firms in Australia and New Zealand paid up to $350,000 for a 10x franchise. So it was geo-fenced. It was a franchise space in which they could operate. And as most franchise, or many franchises are, but we completely dismantled that, and we said, well, we don't want to sell franchises. It's not what we do. We don't want to sell licenses because it's not what we want to do. And we certainly are not going to be charging $350,000 or anything close to it. So we completely rethought the methodology after having spoken to many accounting practices, surveyed what they needed, what they wanted, what they were looking for, and how we could help them grow their business. So with the methodology that we've discussed with the hub formation, the advisory board hub formation, and the coaching club, the lead generation, the building of your practice, etc. So just to recap what it is that we're offering. So we're offering total access to the 10x IP, extraordinary amount of IP that allows the members of the hub to deliver additional services, but mostly the accounting the practitioners to deliver services to their client base. And of course, with that comes additional revenue streams for the practitioner, clearly. And it's online, and it's accessible whenever you choose to access it. So we have all members of the hub in a group meeting once every 60 days, remembering that we call that the coaching club. So frequency is 6 times a year. In other words, every 60 days, it's a full day's meeting, and it's face-to-face. And then in between those months, we meet 6 times a year, and it's around 90 minutes, again, face-to-face, where the coach meets with each person of the hub. And of course, that applies too for your clients in their coaching club. However, just focusing on you, the practitioner, for the minute. So